this morning. I want to tell you a little bit story of what's gone on in my life. And a lot of you have seen parts of it throughout the last 10 years. If we go back in time to 10 years ago, September 27th, 2010, I was having a birthday. I turned 50 that day. And I was working at a local bank as an assistant vice president in charge of regional consumer training. I took care of making sure everyone at the bank knew their jobs from Orlando to Jacksonville and all the way over to Tallahassee. That was my region. I also taught branch manager classes, taught leadership classes, upper management classes, and sales classes throughout the whole bank. And the bank was from Miami to Indianapolis, over from the coast, from North Carolina down to Florida, and all the way over to Texas. I was on the road 2-3 weeks a month. I traveled so much, I would call my travel agent and say, book me on the 10:15 flight out of Orlando on Tuesday. And she's like, how do you know there's a 10:15 flight? I says, I take it all the time. So I knew there was flights. So I was traveling all the time. I thought I was on top of the world. The bank, the management in the bank really praised me all the time. I was making good money. I was doing a job I loved. I was working 70, 80 hours a week. I was just thought I had everything going on. I was coming to church, and I grew up in the church, and I grew up with God. But I wasn't focusing on God. He was on the back burner for me. So I come home 3 days later from a trip on September 30th, 2010, unpacked my bags, laid down and took a nap, and when I woke up, I tripped over my bags and fell. I broke my right leg down by my ankle, both bones completely in half. Needless to say, I was going to be laid up for a while. And I laughed because, I had just turned 50, and in the Bible it tells us in Leviticus 25, the 50th year shall be a jubilee for you. You shall not sow, nor reap what reseeds itself, nor gather the grapes of the uncultured vines. So God was telling me, you're going to take a jubilee year, and you're going to rest for a year, and you're going to focus on me. So I go to the hospital. I had never been in the hospital except when I was 5, I had a tonsillectomy, and when I had my daughter. That was it. I never went to the hospital. Well, the next couple years would prove a lot different for me. I was laid up with my right leg, all bandaged up. They put all kind of metal in it to hold the bones together. Well, I started getting allergic to the metal. So major infections set in. So they had to operate on me and take all the metal out. So I'm laid up again. I'm laying in bed, not doing anything, eating a lot more than I should be eating, gaining weight. Diabetes runs in my family, so of course my sugar went through the roof, and I started having diabetic problems. For years before this, I had smoked, and so I already had lung problems that I didn't know about. Well, they came out. And as most of you know, I used to carry oxygen with me all the time because of that. I was having all these health problems, and I had heart problems on top of that also. So my health was horrible, which added to my mental state at the same time too. I was depressed. I was fighting demons on depression, on self-pity, on paranoia, just all kind of things. But I was coming to church every Sunday, and I was smiling, and everyone thought I was having a great life. My family even didn't know what I was going through. I was keeping it all inside, and I wasn't even letting God know, but He knew. But I wasn't talking to Him. I wasn't asking for help from Him. So when I finally decided to turn it over to God, that's when it changed. From November 2018 to June 2019, I was put in the hospital 4 times by ambulance, intubated, because I was unconscious and unbreathing. My family found me laying on the floor in my house 4 times. Every time we went in, the doctor said, it might not be. She might not come back out. That's how bad I was. But those doctors didn't know God the way I knew Him. the way he was, the healer that he is, and the plans he had for me. He wasn't done with me. So when I finally decided to let it all go to God, he made differences. I started getting better. My health started getting better. Everything about my life started getting better. So why are we here today? Well, 10 years ago when all this started, I was sitting in the chair in the hospital, and I had a dream. And a friend came in to visit me, and I was telling his friend about the dream. And the dream was I was running in the narthex outside here. And this friend told me that that's not a dream, it's a vision. When you were able to do that, your healing's going to be complete. God will heal you. Well, I'm here to tell you today, I have gym shoes on. Guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to run the narthex today. Mark 5:34 tells us, Christ said to her, "Daughter, your faith has restored you to health. Go in peace and be healed from your suffering." And that's one of my Bible verses today, is that I'm healed. My run is I'm not an Olympic runner. So if you stay to watch me, I'm not an Olympic runner, but it is a run. And it is the run that God has given me. Yes. I just have a couple thanks to say. I want to thank you all, first of all, for your prayers. I know that there has been hundreds of hours of prayer on my behalf from every one of you in here, and I'm thankful for all that. You don't know how much that means to me, all the prayers that I've had, the words of encouragement that I've had on Sundays when I come in here, and people are just so loving and helpful, and that tell me I look good and tell me that I'm getting better, and just those words of encouragement help so much, and the friendships I've made here. There was a time when I couldn't drive, and my family works, and so they couldn't take me to all my doctor's appointments. All I had to do was ask once, can someone take me to the doctor? And every time, someone was there to take me to the doctors. Someone was there from this church to take me wherever I needed to go. And I thank you all for that. The love of this church, and I laugh, I talk to people now all the time that are unhappy with their churches, and I'm like, come see us. None of them have come yet, but they'll come. You guys all do act as brothers and sisters of Christ to me, and I thank you for that. I was talking to someone the other day. Now that I'm healed, I'm bored with being retired and being home all the time. So I've started volunteering at Interfaith, and I was talking to a lady who went to another church here in town. She just moved to town, and I said, why'd you pick that church? She said it was around the corner from where she was living. And she says, but she's been there like 3 or 4 times. Not one person has said hello to her. She hasn't met one person at that church. I'm like, oh, you got to come see us. I says, you'll make more friends in the first 5 minutes you're there than any time else. So thank you all for all that. And Tiffany and Charlie, who are here today with me, oh, if it wasn't for them, they have helped me through all this. They've kicked my butt when I needed it kicked. They have just been the rock that I've stood on. So I thank you all for everything you've done for me. And above all, I want to thank God for loving me through everything, for giving me the strength. Yes, for giving me the strength and the courage. I laughed last week. One of my favorite songs that I have been singing through all this stuff is one that Justin sang last week. And he never promised that our road would be easy. It's been 10 years for me. He's never promised it would be easy, but he never promised that the cross would not get heavy. But he said, help will always come in time, in God's time. I'm so excited to be here today to make this vision come true that I've had for 10 years of my healing being complete by running in the narthex. So thank you for watching.